I want to give you an announcement of the event that occurred in the hospital in Gaza. I can confirm that an analysis of the IDF operational systems indicates that a barrage of rockets was fired by terrorists in Gaza, passing in close proximity to the El Hali Al Maadi hospital in Gaza at the time it was hit. Intelligence from few sources that we have in our hands indicates that the Islamic Jihad is responsible for the failed rocket launch which hit the hospital in Gaza. I repeat, this is the responsibility of Islamic Jihad that killed innocents in the hospital in Gaza.
I have been kind of holding off on my coverage on the situation over in Israel today because for most of the day and still right now, all of the talk and all of the information coming from over there has been centered around this hospital that got bombed in Gaza. Now, there's a lot of conflicting reports. I've seen reports that 200 were killed, 300, 500, 900. So I'm not sure at this moment how many lives were lost in this attack. But there's conflicting reports about basically everything. It was originally believed that this was an Israeli airstrike. Big news outlets all over the world reported that an Israeli airstrike, struck this hospital. That Israel bombed this hospital in Gaza full of innocent civilians. But then, after seeing how the world reacted to that news, Israel came out and denied that they had anything to do with this. They said that no, this was a failed rocket from Hamas that winded up, failing and crashing into one of their own hospitals as they were trying to attack us. So both sides, over the course of this entire day, have been pointing the finger at each other, and both sides have been producing pieces of evidence that would suggest that the other side is responsible. And there's videos being shown, and in the day and age of AI and, in the fog of war, it's hard to really know what to believe. They say that the first casualty of war is the truth, and there has been tons of propaganda there's been tons of propaganda put out there by both sides since this war or this conflict began. And today has been one of the worst days when trying to deal with all of this propaganda and trying to sift through what's real and what's fake. But I'm glad that I held off on my reporting of this situation because the story has changed at least 15 to 16 times since I woke up this morning. It's all over the place. I've seen so much conflicting information. And I think to be on the safe side, all we know is that a hospital was bombed and a lot of innocent people died, regardless of who did it. Now, there's definitely arguments and conversations to be had on both sides. And to be clear, I don't put this past either side. I find both options believable. I believe that Israel would bomb this hospital, and I believe that Hamas would bomb this hospital. I believe that a rocket could have failed, and crashed into this hospital. I believe there's a possibility that Israel can be lying. I don't put nothing past any of these people, and you have to understand that this is war. And as outraged as I see everyone being about this, and rightfully so, at the same time, this is war. What do you think happens in war? When rockets and missiles are being fired left and right from all angles, from all sides, what do you think is going to happen? But like I said, there's arguments to be made here because from one point, these terrorist groups like Hamas, they're not fighting with sophisticated weaponry. Hamas literally digs up water pipes and they turn them into rockets. That's actually one of the reasons why there's such a problem with water in Gaza, is because Hamas literally digs up the water pipes and they turn them into rockets. They use them for their rockets. So, it's not hard to believe that they may have shot off one of these cheap homemade rockets and it didn't get to its destination and it crashed, into a hospital. That's believable. But at the same time, it's like, okay, but would one of those homemade cheap rockets be powerful enough to do the damage that this explosion did? And when Israel has been bombing the hell out of Gaza for days on end, it's not hard to believe that maybe they bombed this location. And like I said, there's so much conflicting information. There's been confirmations, and then they walk back these claims, and then they say they did this, and it's just been all over the place. But regardless of who really bombed this hospital, it's still leading to the same destination, if you will. Like, Israel bombed it, Hamas bombed it. It doesn't really matter because either way, we're getting to the same conclusion. And that conclusion is that this has really stirred up the Middle East. If you thought that things were bad before, these people in multiple countries have now taken to the streets. Iran, basically, they put out a statement and all they said was, time is over. Time is over. Now, you might remember that Iran has been threatening since the beginning that if Israel kept carrying out these attacks in Gaza, that they were going to get directly involved in this war. And then they walked it back a little bit and said, oh, we'll only get involved if we're attacked. And then they changed again yesterday and they started issuing new threats. And now they just said, hey, time's over, time's up. So what does that mean? I mean, I've heard a lot of talking from a lot of people over there, but we haven't seen as much action from them. So there's all of these threats, but they just simply said time is up. Insinuating basically that time is up and now we're going to join the fight. But then again, they've been threatening a lot of things, right? But I do know this. At the time of this recording, it's around, I believe, 4 o'clock in the morning in Iran. And there are thousands upon thousands of people in the streets basically calling for retaliation, basically calling for Iran to go ahead and attack Israel. There are people flooding the streets of Iran, and not just Iran, Iraq, Jordan, all over the place in the Middle East. They're flooding the streets, basically begging for their countries to enter into this war. So I don't know if these people are going to get involved or not, but it looks like they have a lot of support from their citizens, It looks like the people in those areas, and obviously the people out there protesting and the people out there flooding the streets, I won't say they speak for everyone, but it looks like they have a good portion of people who are all for getting fully involved in this conflict. But as this war intensifies and tensions are at an all-time high in the region, Joe Biden is supposed to be visiting Israel tomorrow. So I guess we will see how that goes. We've had all types of politicians, military leaders. I forgot about that. we've had several military leaders and commanders already travel to Israel. And they're having these meetings that I find very concerning, because they're basically coming up with plans for the next stage of this war if America does get involved. But anyways, Joe Biden is visiting there tomorrow. And I don't know, does anyone else find it kind of weird how in the middle of these wars, like, our world leaders can travel into the middle of these nations and countries who are at war, and they never really have to worry about anything? You know what I mean? It's like innocent women and children and men, pets, you name it, they all have to worry about, they all have to fear for their lives. Crazy things happen. And a lot of the people in Israel, the people in Gaza, they're living in a constant state of fear, yet you could just send our president right into the middle of all of this and nothing ever happens. And it's been like that for, a long time. I would watch these, World War II documentaries and reading about World War II. And sometimes you would just see like world leaders traveling places where they shouldn't necessarily travel. And a lot of people view it as, brave and courageous. But I view it as like, y'all are overly confident that you're okay. If you can't confidently secure your citizens and your people, how can you confidently secure all of these world leaders that are traveling, to Israel at this time, or to whatever countries involved in the war at that time? Do y'all understand where I'm coming from? How unsuspecting innocent people are killed in the middle of these countries during these wars all the time, yet world leaders are freely traveling and nothing happens to them? Why is it that these militaries will kill an innocent child, but, they never really make an attempt to go after these world leaders that are landing their planes in the middle of war zones? It's just weird. And it makes you kind of wonder. And it honestly makes it look like all of this is kind of one big game that these people are playing. And they know confidently that nothing's going to happen to them because they're calling the shots, and only the innocent people have to worry about anything. You know what I mean? But hey, I guess that's just another one of those things that we're not supposed to notice. But anyways, let me know your thoughts about all of this down in the comments below. If you're feeling generous, drop a super thanks. Be sure to follow me on Twitter. Hit that thumbs up button. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Ring that notification bell. And I'll talk to you all in the next video.